This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, would be absolutely delighted to have you. It is an open line Friday. As always, text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Should you wish to be on the program and find out all about the show, the live stream, the YouTube, all that, we're growing the YouTube channel at EW Erickson. Everything's at EW Erickson. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, you name it, all at EW Erickson. EWERICKSON. Now, I must move on to the Mark Robinson saga. Y'all, okay. Let me explain to you what I knew. You know, last year at the gathering, I endorsed Mark Walker, who former congressman was running for governor. And one of my concerns was that various Republican consultants in North Carolina told me that Robinson, there was all sorts of stuff no one had bothered to even vet when he was lieutenant governor. It just didn't matter. And, you know, this is something for those of you outside of the South, when in the South, when you think about North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, when you think about Florida, Arkansas, Alabama, you name it, lieutenant governors never really amount to much. There are exceptions. Burt Jones here in Georgia might be one of those exceptions. But by and large, lieutenant governors tend not to become the governor of the state. And it's kind of the party in power puts their guy there and no one really pays attention to him. And in North Carolina, they put Mark Robinson there. He was an evangelical reverend minister who said all the right culture warrior stuff. And they put him in as lieutenant governor, where he has been saying all sorts of stuff that the Democrats have now used against him. You need to understand that Mark Robinson was not going to win the governor's race in North Carolina anyway. And the reason he wasn't going to win is because he's 10 points behind, and that was before yesterday's scandal. Because the Democrats have been pointing out all the outlandish things that Mark Robinson has been saying or doing, that his wife got sued by the Girl Scouts, they presume, for a bounce check on cookies. They've had some sort of center for kids where they were getting federal grants. The money apparently wasn't spent on the kids. The IRS is allegedly investigating. All this stuff is coming out. And the online weirdo sex stuff, that's one of the things I was told in the primary, that there was this online weirdo sex stuff that was going to come out that people knew. That's the most I knew, is that it was online weirdo sex stuff. Turns out the online weirdo sex stuff is that Mark Robinson has fantasies about Hitler and slavery and like to spend time in adult stores watching pornography, and in particular had a thing for tranny porn. Puts a whole new meaning to the state leaning D today. Mark Robinson into transgender porn and Hitler and slave fantasies. Now, here's the thing. You can say this is not true. You can say it's not true. And many of his supporters will. Like, I have friends of mine over in Alabama who are very insistent that all those women telling similar stories about Roy Moore, and they all seem to look kind of alike. They all had similar stories that it's all made up. It's all BS. It's not true. You can't believe it. I had a buddy of mine text me yesterday. It absolutely denying it was true. Whether you want to say it was true or not, it's what the voters believe. And you had 9 women saying that Roy Moore had done these things to them, and they all seemed to look a little bit alike. They all had a similar pattern of conduct, and maybe it surely was a well-orchestrated story. You can say it was Christine Blasey Ford, whatever you want to say about it, but there was a pattern. Here's the difference with Mark Robinson compared to Roy Moore, even if you want to deny the Roy Moore stuff. The difference is that this was Mark Robinson's personal email address before he even got into politics. So unless the Democrats invented a time machine and went back decades to plant evidence to make Mark Robinson look bad in the anticipation he might run for office one day, it was him. Now, you can also say that, well, that was 20, 30 years ago that all this stuff happened. We're going back to the 90s. This is disgusting. People are able to grow and change all that. That's fine. You can make that case. But good luck selling it to the voters. And here's one of the biggest problems is evangelicals, when they become MAGA-gelicals, they lose all sense of discernment. If you can say Jesus with 5 syllables, so it's not Jesus, but it is Jesus, the MAGA-gelicals will rush to embrace you as one of their own because you said the magic word. You said Jesus with 5 syllables. You must be a real one, and God is going to protect you, and he's going to surround you. What do they pray for? A hedge of protection. He's going to give you a hedge of protection. Oh, Lord Jesus, give Mark Robinson a hedge of protection against his enemies who will vilify him by retroactive time travel to plant pornography and Hitler fantasies. Please, oh Lord, Jesus, protect him with a hedge of protection. Well, you've screwed yourselves. You're not only not going to protect Mark Robinson, who was losing by 10 points before this, you might cost Donald Trump North Carolina's 16 electoral college votes. Why? Because no one's going to give Mark Robinson a penny now. He was already out of money, and the Trump campaign has to spend extra money in North Carolina now because the Mark Robinson campaign has no more ground game to offer to help supplement the Trump efforts. So Mark Robinson's refusal to get out, and by the way, he could have dropped out by midnight last night, no harm, no foul, and he didn't. So him staying in the race, you and your hedge of protection aren't going to do anything to help Mark Robinson, and you might cost Donald Trump. And this is a pattern with these people. Some people yesterday got mad at me and said, Erickson, you mean you knew about Mark Robinson and you said nothing? This is your fault. Yeah, way to blame me for knowing the creepy online sex rumors without any substance. You're the people who decided to listen to this guy, knowing, by the way, everyone knew in the primary, the Girl Scouts that sued his wife for the bounced checks, and the state of North Carolina had shut down his child daycare program because they weren't spending the money they said they were. All these other problems. Somehow this is my fault? No, it's not my fault. You people vetted this guy and decided, oh, he's one of us. He says Jesus. And here's your proof on this. Is in 2022, I told Republicans every bit of dirt about Herschel Walker in the Republican primary in Georgia. Every bit of it was known and in public before the general election. And you know what the MAGA-gelicals say? No, Donald Trump told us he's legit. He's reformed. That was old news. That was in the past. You've got to be able to forgive people, Erickson. You've got to let it go. Get out of your never Trump mindset. Donald Trump says Herschel Walker's the man, therefore he's the man. And he lost. And you know why he lost? Because every damn thing I told you was going to come out came out. But it didn't matter because Donald Trump laid hands on him and the hedge of protection sprung up around him because he could say Jesus. And he lost. It's not just Donald Trump's MAGA supporters. It is uniquely the MAGA-gelicals, the evangelicals who support Donald Trump, who have outsourced all discernment from the Holy Spirit to Donald Trump and believe that Trump himself plants the hedge of protection and surrounds these people with an army of angels. Mark Walker was a minister in North Carolina, but couldn't say Jesus with 5 syllables. He didn't get Donald Trump's endorsement. In fact, all of the Republican consultants I've talked to have said that the reason they didn't decide to push this stuff is because it was very clear, one, Donald Trump was going to endorse, and two, it would have done no good. So it was better to keep their mouths shut and hope no one else found out about what they knew about Mark Robinson. Too late. The only one to blame here is Mark Robinson, who could have done the right thing last night. But here's the galling part of this, is that some of these supporters are now out there saying Republicans need to stand by their man. You threw Roy Moore under the bus. Now you're throwing Mark Robinson under the bus. Democrats will do whatever they can to win. Yes, you're damn right. Democrats will throw their candidates out and put new people in because they want to win. Joe Biden would like a word with those of you who think the Democrats circle the wagons and refuse to push people out of the race. Jim McGreevey of New Jersey would love to talk to you and find those Democrats who circle the wagons and refuse to push their bad candidates out of office and instead fight, because you people want to fight all the way to your loss instead of shoving a guy out the door. I mean, it is appalling to me that we just like 3-4 weeks ago saw Joe Biden get shoved aside by the Democrats to improve their chances of winning. And the MAGA supporters of Mark Robinson are like, we need to stand by our man. Democrats, they stand by their man. Democrats would never throw Mark Robinson out if he was theirs. He'd stand by and fight as Joe Biden's body goes sailing past you out the window. But it's not just him. It's Carrie Lake. It's Dr. Oz. It's Herschel Walker. It's Bernie Moreno in Ohio, who there were credible rumors about Bernie Moreno and his online habits with young men. But nope, we're going to double down on him because the J.D. Vance and Donald Trump say he's their guy. Every time you outsource your vetting of candidates to Donald Trump, it blows up in your face. Going to lose the new North Carolina governor's mansion. And again, to be clear, Mark Robinson was never going to win. He was never going to win. He was 10 points behind before this stuff broke. He's going to be further behind. The problem is, here's why this stuff matters now, is because the next stuff the Democrats are going to drop is the financial scandals. Because there are financial scandals. There is, how did he spend this federal grant money in his business that got shut down by North Carolina? There's the bouncing checks to the Girl Scouts purportedly for cookies. There's a landlord dispute with a disabled landlord. Now, all of that stuff was known in the primaries. People thought, it's so long ago, it's no big deal. You compound that with the Hitler fantasies and the transgender porn and the porn shop visits to watch pornography. Good luck making your case. It's going to bleed North Carolina dry of money. Donors are going to say, I'm not putting another penny in, which means Donald Trump is going to have to direct resources from Nevada and Arizona and Georgia and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin to double down on North Carolina. So it's going to cost Donald Trump money that could be spent elsewhere because they nominated a bad candidate who behind the scenes people knew. And by the way, Michael Whatley was one of the people who said Robinson's the guy. And now he's at the RNC and no longer having to deal with the fallout of North Carolina. I wonder what he knew about Robinson privately. You got played. Mark Robinson should have done the good thing and gotten out last night. Donald Trump should have called him last night, offered him a job to get him out of the race. I don't know that happened. Maybe he tried and didn't. But this is now going to force Donald Trump to spend money in a state he should have locked down. That's the problem. Haley Barbour, governor of Mississippi, before he was governor of Mississippi, was the RNC chair. And he had a strategy that worked very successfully. You want to win a state for the presidency or for the Senate, you win it for the governor's race because governors can build and invest in ground games that everyone else can use. And instead, in North Carolina, the Republicans are not going to get the governor's mansion. And not only are they not going to get the governor's mansion, they're going to dry up money going into North Carolina because of the Mark Robinson scandal. And it's just the beginning of the drip, drip, drip of scandals that could suppress independent Republican-leaning votes and cost this state's 16 electoral college votes for Donald Trump. Why? Because Donald Trump and his supporters yet again failed to discern that this candidate was a good candidate. Why? Because the candidate engaged in the performative leg humping of Donald Trump and decided to give Jesus 5 syllables in his 2-syllable name to prove he was authentically a MAGA-jellicle. He was a prayer warrior preacher who hated gay marriage and preached inflammatory sermons and gave great speeches, some of which I've even played on this program in defense of traditional marriage and traditional culture, and all of that doesn't matter now because the man liked trans porn and Hitler fantasies and additionally has all sorts of financial baggage that's going to come out, which all of this in the primaries there were rumors about, but people didn't care because Donald Trump said he was the guy, just like Herschel Walker, just like Dr. Oz, just like Carrie Lake, just like Joe Kent, just like Bernie Moreno. Drip, drip, drip. And we wonder why we keep losing. No, it has nothing to do with the Democrats standing by their men. They throw their guys out. We don't. We double down. And then we get to play victim. When really, it's our side that keeps picking the bad candidates.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Let me go to Brenda's phone call, waiting patiently. Welcome to the show, Brenda. How are you?
I am fantastic. Happy Friday to you.
Oh, you too. And thankfully it is Friday. My goodness.
Oh, yes. Got a question about what I heard you say the other day about Trump going to Springfield and Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw, which I was very excited about. I totally agreed that I thought what you said about him maybe doing a town hall, answering some questions would go a long way. But I was listening to Vance's speech, I think it was in Wisconsin yesterday, and he was asked that specific question from the media, are you planning on going to Springfield? And he implied that because the officials there had said it would just be too much, overwhelming the city, that they had decided not to do that. So I was confused by that.
I haven't heard the latest if they've had a change of plans. The last I heard was that President Trump still intended to go. Honestly, I think he should go. And if they're worried about resources being tasked, point out that the resources are being overwhelmed because of all the immigrants in the city, not because of Donald Trump. But
right.
I'll try to find out the answer. As far as I know, he's still planning on going to Springfield, Ohio, and to Aurora, Colorado. I think he should. And the campaign has the means to be able to take care of it, even apart from what local governments do. I think when local governments tell you don't come because we're too overwhelmed to be able to have you, that's actually when you do go, and you highlight how overwhelmed they are because of the Biden-Harris agenda. Now, I got to tell you, one of the groups that's going to Springfield, Ohio, and knocking on doors is Americans for Prosperity. They're out to try to convince people that common sense conservative solutions are available for border security, to deal with the illegal immigrants, to deal with the economy, to deal with school choice, to deal with families and small businesses, to help them. All you need to do to become a part of their mission to educate Americans is to go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Go sign up with Americans for Prosperity. They'll teach you how to be a door knocker. They'll teach you how to talk to your neighbors. They'll teach you how to talk to your local government, your state government, about common sense conservative solutions. They'll educate you and make you the most informed member of your circle of friends. They do a brilliant job. They would love to have you participate. They have chapters in almost every state. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Go there, sign up, engage with Americans for Prosperity. They'll make you a much more informed conservative activist, and they will make you very effective at advancing freedom. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the phones, it is an open line Friday. You still got to get past the call screener. Well, Joe Biden has done it again. He's managed to, be public and put his foot in his mouth. This is Joe Biden.
And by the way, I've never once spoken to the chairman of the Fed since I became president.
He's never once spoken to the chairman of the Fed since he became president. That's Joe Biden. Here's a problem is multiple videos have come forward of Chairman Jerome Powell in the White House sitting in the Oval Office with Joe Biden. And Joe Biden says he's never talked to him. So White House has had to spring into damage control mode. Here's Jared Bernstein.
The president, in his remarks about an hour ago, said that he had never spoken with the Fed chairman since he's been in the White House. That's obviously not true. He met in the Oval Office in 2022. Can you clarify the president's remarks there and why did he say that?
Sure. The president was saying that he has not spoken to Chair Powell about interest rates. He did not pressure Powell and has never done so. And in fact, in the speech today, that was in the section about Fed independence and about the importance of respecting and honoring that independence. It's obviously a stark contrast with our predecessor.
Wow. So he says he never did, and yet here it is, Joe Biden. Turns out, oh, well, actually he did. It's just, it's different. This app, every time they put him in front of us, it's like Kamala Harris. Every time you put her out there, she engages in these word salads that make no sense, and Joe Biden continuing these sorts of gaffes. You know, by the way, the press corps is actually mad at Joe Biden because he's decided to shut them out. He's got a big meeting of world leaders coming up, and he's decided he's going to shut them out of the conversation. They're not going to be there. Today, Jill Biden kicked off the cabinet meeting. She decided to sit in with the cabinet. It is her first cabinet meeting since 2023, and she decided she would be leading the cabinet. They're not even pretending anymore. The guy is just clearly not well. Joe Biden is clearly not well. And Jill Biden is there. Now, the purpose of the cabinet meeting, you should know, is to speed up the Biden agenda. He wants more reform done. You know, I played you the clip yesterday of Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg was on CNBC, and they were kind of laughing at him that only 7 high-speed car chargers have been installed with federal grant money since the Inflation Reduction Act funded it. And he was like, well, there have been 150 some odd thousand that have been put in. Yeah, those were the ones with private money, the private sector doing them. The actual money from the federal government to put them in places you otherwise can't get them, non-existent. Got 7 of them. He's like, we should have our goal completed by 2030. No, you're not. No, you're not. The Biden administration has done something that Donald Trump did not do. The Biden administration decided that they could trust their own bureaucracy. It's something no Republican would ever do. Republicans inherently do not trust the bureaucracy. Republicans don't trust the bureaucracy because the bureaucracy is out to get the GOP. So you never trust the Republican. You never trust the bureaucracy. You don't trust the bureaucracy because the bureaucracy is essentially Democrat plants. Something I think people don't understand is that when a Democrat leaves the White House, his political appointees are allowed to fill bureaucratic slots at the same pay grade and embed themselves into the federal bureaucracy. They do this so that they can obstruct the incoming Republican agenda. Barack Obama had a lot of people in his administration who stayed in the bureaucracy. The result was that Donald Trump did not trust the bureaucracy. So Donald Trump relied on his political appointees within the administration to perform his agenda in a way he wanted to block the Democratic processes, to block the Democrats from inside the bureaucracy. Joe Biden decided he could rely on the bureaucracy. And in relying on the bureaucracy, he's undermined himself. And so this cabinet meeting that Jill Biden is presiding at today with Joe Biden is designed to crack the whip and essentially to say that, you guys, we've only got a few more months in office. You need to get a run-in with this stuff. Now, let's listen to a little bit of Jill Biden's remarks. This is from MSNBC a short time ago.
Notably, Jill Biden, Dr. Biden, the First Lady, in attendance today as well, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, this is an important and interesting cabinet meeting because of who is not there, which was Vice President Harris, obviously, who has her campaign schedule. But then because of the spotlight that the First Lady did have, she talked about the fact that sometimes the White House, in her words, surprises you. And for somebody who has worked on women's health issues for her whole career, frankly, as a teacher, but also as the Second Lady and now as the First Lady, she said one of the things that struck her the most was the inequities in medical research, funding for medical research for women. So this is an important priority of hers that she had the opportunity to at this cabinet meeting to spotlight. And as you had that great interview with her, Peter, talking about the fact that, yes, a burden may have been lifted from her husband's shoulder in one respect with the end of his campaign, but there's still a lot of work that they both intend to do during their last few months in office here.
Now, Joe Biden was in attendance. He actually was presiding over the meeting, contrary to some of the spin that Jill Biden was in charge. She was there to promote this agenda, but the cabinet can only move so fast, and they don't have a lot of cutthroat bureaucrats in charge of the cabinet. One of the ones who is Jennifer Granholm, who actually knows how to fight in bureaucracy. She's been pushing these environmental regulations as quick as she possibly can in order to get them done. And they know if Trump gets elected, he'll be able to roll them back. Again, this goes back to Donald Trump campaigning in Long Island yesterday. He campaigned in Long Island not for himself, but for Republican members of Congress, trying to hold the Congress. And he needs to do it. He needs to keep the House of Representatives under Republican control to get anything done. Now, the House of Representatives right now is having problems because they've got their spending resolution. A government shutdown happens October 1st unless there's a spending package. Republicans attempted to pursue the SAVE Act, and of course, Republicans are their own worst enemy. So let me give you the breakdown here. Speaker Johnson tied the SAVE Act to the continuing resolution. But in the process of tying the SAVE Act, he had a number of congressmen who say, well, you don't really mean it. And because you don't really mean it, I'm not going to vote for it. I follow the logic along with me here. Some Republican conservative members of Congress decided to kill it because they say they support it, but even though the Speaker of the House put it forward, they decided he didn't really support it. It was for show. And since he didn't really mean it, they were going to vote against it. They had the opportunity to pass it. What they essentially are saying is that if it comes time for the government to shut down, Johnson's going to cut a deal without the SAVE Act. And he probably is. Republican members of Congress do not want a government shutdown. I am totally fine with a government shutdown. Just so you understand, I prefer a government shutdown because if the government is shut down, they can't screw up our lives. So I would prefer it. Republicans, however, think it's bad optics to have a government shutdown, and the majority of them do. So here's the problem for the Speaker. The Speaker of the House does not have the votes to pass a continuing resolution with the SAVE Act. He does have the votes to pass a continuing resolution without the SAVE Act. He tried to pass it with Republican votes. Republicans refused to support the SAVE Act. So now the Speaker's going to try to keep the House open because here's his problem. There are enough Republican votes in the House of Representatives to ignore the Speaker's wishes and fund the government with the Democrats. So either the Speaker Johnson is going to lead them towards a path of keeping the government open, or they're going to let Hakeem Jeffries lead them, and these Republicans will go along with it. Remember, they're through their primaries now. They're not scared about Republican voters anymore. They're scared about independent voters. So it doesn't matter what Johnson does. He's got to come up with a plan to keep the government open by October 1st, or the Democrats are going to come up with a plan. And enough Republicans will support the Democrats. Johnson's in a no-win situation. Again, I really like Mike Johnson. He really is the first evangelical Speaker of the House. He's the first authentically pro-life Speaker of the House. We've had others who've, Paul Ryan was too, but a pro-life evangelical Speaker of the House, a true believer in the conservative movement. Mike Johnson, he's the first. He's the first guy outside of the Republican establishment to become Speaker. And he's been sabotaged by his own wing of the party, the hardcore populist conservatives who are so used to blowing up leadership, they haven't wanted to cooperate with leadership, and he's got a job to do. He is the dog that caught the car and has regretted it ever since, I suspect. The government's going to be funded. I am totally happy to have a government shutdown. I kind of like the idea of a government shutdown. The reality, however, is that it's not going to happen, maybe for a day or two. But Senate Republicans don't want the government shut down. A majority of House Republicans don't want the government shut down. None of the Democrats want the government shut down. So the Democrats have the votes. Republicans in the House can shape a continuing resolution with Mike Johnson in solidarity and extract some concessions from the Democrats. But they're not going to get everything they want. And so those who say we have to oust the speaker if he doesn't shut down the government, okay, you may oust him anyway. If you win, you're probably going to be so excited by a win that you're going to let him stay a speaker. But if you lose, I mean, there's a real concern that Republicans will get blamed. It will suck the energy out of the election. So what do? I'll tell you my preference. My preference is that Republicans make this a hill to die on. My preference is that Republicans actually decide, you know what, we're okay with the government shutting down. We want the SAVE Act, and we will keep the government shut down until you give us the SAVE Act. It's what Republicans did with sequestration when Barack Obama was president. They just shut it all down. And they said, until you give us this, we're not opening back up. That's our starting and ending negotiating position. And it worked. It's naive, I realize, they say. You're going to have Senate Republicans undercut them. The problem with my position, that I'm telling you what I want to do. The problem is the Democrats only need about a dozen Republicans to sabotage the effort. And the Speaker of the House knows, however much you or I might not like it, the Democrats have the Republicans to sabotage the effort. So the question for you and me is, what can the Speaker do to salvage this operation and make a go of it in some way? And that is hold the line on Republicans and do what you can, work with the Senate Republicans. They're going to keep the government open. Let's extract some concession as best we can. And I don't know what that concession is. All I know is my preferred solution will be sabotaged by about 10 Republicans who will side with Hakeem Jeffries and give the Democrats what they want, whether or not Mike Johnson wants them. And to be clear, it is not Mike Johnson's fault when you're herding the cats. Sometimes the cats wind up hurting you and hurting you in the process. Now, I got to tell you about Vision Computer. Vision Computer is my family's computer company for our son's gaming PC. They did a brilliant job making a great computer for our son, and we get their great service with it. So we can, for example, call Vision Computers at 404-COMPUTE, and 15 seconds or less, my son gets the answer to all of his computer problems. I never have to be his tech support. Now, let's say you are a small businessman and you have computers. You need to keep them up to date, and you didn't buy it from Vision Computers. If you bought it from Vision Computers, their tech support comes for free. Otherwise, $179 a year. Let's say you are an independent contractor. You work from your home. You can't afford computer downtime because you got to pay your bills. For $179 a year, Vision can be your in-house IT department. Can you afford an IT guy? If you're an independent contractor, you're working out of your house, can you afford an IT guy as well? No. But for $179 a year, Vision can be your IT guy. And so Vision, you can offload all your concerns, your email support, your printer support, everything can come through Vision Computers. All you have to do is call them at 404-COMPUTE. 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you. You're going to save even more money. You can also go to visioncomputers.com. They can build you a computer, and that tech support comes for free. But if you have a computer not from Vision, you need their tech support, 15 seconds or less, you can get the answer to anything that plagues your computer. They can even remote in and fix your computer, giving you the peace of mind to be as productive as possible. Those of you who are independent contractors, you're freelancers, this is perfect for you. For $179 a year, you can get your own in-house IT department. And, you know, if it's a business expense, well, think about your taxes. VisionComputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. Give them a call. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. It's an open line Friday. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Can I sing the praises of Scott Jennings, please, at CNN? You know, CNN, I think they started to make some sort of shift where they tried to recognize that they had problems with the right They were putting on more right-wing voices. They've got a few. Scott Jennings is one of the very few there now. But what I noticed is they've gone back to the habit of putting the one Republican against 5 other people. And what they do is they have 1 or 2 people who say, well, I'm a Republican too. Even though they hate everything the Republican Party stands for, they can say, look, it was 2 against 2, Republican against Democrat. It was Republican against, no, it was 5 Trump haters against 1 guy willing to defend Trump and the base. And this is it over anti-Semitism. Boy, they aren't having it.
I respect you very much in the work you've done. You cannot deny what we have seen in America since October the 7th, and it has only to do with one thing. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, and there are people who feel like now is the time to let it out, and it is ugly.
It is ugly, and that's why we shouldn't nominate a president who dines with white supremacists, who makes one of his key allies.
If you want to make apologies for it on the left, go ahead.
I'm not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it.
No, you are denying that exists on the right. You are stumping for Trump in a way that tries to ignore that he himself dined with a white supremacist. He's cozied up to Marjorie Jewish. You're making
a tactical argument, and everybody sitting at this table knows where the source of anti-Semitism is in this country. It is not on the right. It is not.
What a denial!
An extreme statement.
It is not on the right.
That's an extreme.
An extreme statement. They say.
Wait, did Trump? No, hold on. Did Trump dine with Nick Fuentes? Is Nick Fuentes a white supremacist?
He did dine with Nick Fuentes.
Is he a white supremacist?
He should not have done that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so now we know that it is not only.
So you're saying one person.
Don't you love that? So that's Sarah Longwell, who was never anything other than a lobbyist and has reinvented herself as to some leading voice against Donald Trump, against Scott Jennings. And yeah, by the way, the moral of the story here as well is Trump should avoid these people. But none of these people wanted to acknowledge the level of anti-Semitism on the left. They want to make it all about Donald Trump. And that's part of the problem here with the left is they can't acknowledge the problems on their side. You know, guys like Scott, he's willing to say Trump shouldn't have done that. I'm willing to say Nick Fuentes is a horrible human being, and Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and the like should avoid him like the plague. Donald Trump should avoid Laura Loomer. Kellyanne Conway was on TV yesterday saying there's no way Laura Loomer should be anywhere near Donald Trump, let alone on his plane. And there's a problem there. But nobody on the left wants to hold the left accountable. Nobody on the left wants to say the anti-Semitism on the left is bad. Everyone on the right is told stay away from Nick Fuentes. No one on the left says stay away from Louis Farrakhan or Al Sharpton. By the way, that's one reason there are strains within the Republican Party now that double down on hanging out with people like that, because nobody's going to tell me what to do. The problem is you should just recognize for yourself there are detestable people, some on the left, some on the right, but what we should do is the left should regulate the left and the right should regulate the right and not have the left dictate who is acceptable on the right and the right dictate who is acceptable on the left. But disproportionately, the media and the left want to dictate who's a good Republican or not. Scott Jennings, great Republican, willing to put up with a 5-against-1 panel on CNN and score some real points, pointing out that the left is where the anti-Semitism is festering these days, and it should be called out. And I would notice not even that good Republican who hates Donald Trump was willing to call out the left-wing anti-Semitism.